I'm Matt Gilhooly, and this is The Life Shift, candid conversations about the pivotal moments that change lives forever. Hello, my friends. I am here with a friend. I'm going to say friend. It was a short period, but we're going to say friend with my friend Noelle. And she's joining us from Spain. Where in Spain are you?
Yes, I'm in Alicante, so it's a small town. It's a small beach town south of Valencia. Valencia is the biggest city close by.
Is that the east side of Spain?
It is. It's the East Coast.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. I know it's later there. And so we had a little mix up this morning that we thought Eastern time and Spain time and all these things. But I appreciate you taking the time to be on here. So you and I know each other only but briefly. I feel like our quote unquote relationship has been longer on social media than
hmm
it was in real life. And so I feel like, and this is just my remembering of the time, because this was pre-COVID, and who remembers those kind of times? Nobody.
Those days.
It's the before times. But I remember like we were going to the same gym here in Orlando, and we worked out at the same time a couple times a week. And so we would see each other, we would interact in a gym capacity. And then
hmm
and then I think we started being friends on like Instagram or something like that and kind of following
Yeah.
it. And then basically your pivotal moment or your shift is it's like one day you were no longer there. And I was like, she was always here. She was
Yeah, at
always
6
here.
a.m., the early class. Crazy.
She was here every day. And I'm like, I haven't seen her in a while. So before we tell everyone what your life shift is, maybe you can give us a little bit about kind of what your day-to-day was before I stopped seeing you every day at the gym.
Okay. Okay, yeah, definitely. So, at that time, I had just recently graduated university, and I was in my first job working at an advertising agency. So my day looked a lot like waking up, dragging myself out of bed, and going to the gym because that was the only time of day I could go at that 6 a.m. I think it was 6 a.m. or I don't know, it was
6:45
early.
maybe?
So, yeah, early classes and too early for me, but I needed it. I needed it in my life. And then heading to the office and working really late. It was my first job. I wanted to do it right. That like industry, I think a lot of industries nowadays, almost every job you hear about is just like can be very overwhelming, especially at first out of college. It's very demanding. So
Yeah.
my days were looked a lot like work and a little bit of me time in the morning, and then at the end of the day, like forcing myself to fix dinner and going to bed and waking up and doing it again the next day, and then hanging out with like people from work on the weekends, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah. You felt like you were just living that Groundhog Day life. It was just same thing in and out.
It did, and it was a bummer because I was so stoked. I got this job where I had interned my senior year of university, and then I like actually got into the thick of it, and I was like, oh, "This is it's Groundhog Day. Like it just keeps happening over and over again."
Did you enjoy what you were doing in the job?
I did, but it didn't. I enjoyed what I was doing, but it wasn't exactly fulfilling. I don't know if that makes sense, but something was missing. I also think like maybe this is a different direction, but a lot of people don't talk about what it's like as soon as you graduate college. And it's not, it seems so exciting and it's something you should be excited about and proud of, but it's depressing. Like I was depressed. I was seeing a therapist back then because I just didn't know that this was what life was like as an adult. And like
Right.
all of a sudden you graduate college and you have all of these responsibilities and all it doesn't feel like you're led into them. You're just kind of like, "Oh, here you are. Here's life."
And I feel like as Americans, we're sold this journey that we're supposed to go on, right? Where
Mhm.
you're supposed
Yeah.
to do really well in high school so that you can get into a really good school. And then you're 18. So, of course, you should know exactly what you want to do for the rest of your life, right? And so,
Exactly.
so you have to choose right away.
Yeah.
And then you graduate. And honestly, I just posted on social media like a vulnerability moment of which I'm getting a second master's degree right now in
Mhm.
public relations. So what you went to school for, you went advertising and PR.
Yeah.
And I have one class left. And it's the
Congratulations.
same thing. Well, thank you. But it's the same thing even at 40, right? At 41. I should tell everyone I'm truly 41, but I pretend I'm 40. Uh,
Yeah.
but it's the same. You're like, okay, now what? Like the classes, sure, I learned about all these different topics and I learned how to do these assignments and I learned how to do all this, but I don't think I learned how to function in that job. I mean, maybe you felt different because you had that internship.
Mm, I felt largely the same even after the internship, which was part of also, like, the shocking part. I think, like, I was like, "I should have been more prepared for this. This is literally what I signed up for." But my internship was completely different from having actual job responsibilities and being able to, like, be fired and not have an income anymore. Like, totally different stakes.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, plus an internship, you feel probably more like padded. Like you feel like I can make all the mistakes. I can
yeah.
not be perfect. I can work until 5:30 p.m. and go home.
Yep, they're like, "I clock out, this is just for class credit, I don't have any like, I have responsibilities, but really, like, nothing is riding on these responsibilities." And to be fair, I mean, I worked with very supportive people and, like, really great team. I just still felt so overwhelmed. I think part of my specific problem also was that at that time in my life, I wasn't as good at expressing, like, my needs and what I wanted in that environment, you know? I kind of felt like I graduated, I got this job, and now I just need to know what to do, and I need to, like, be a good worker. Because I kind of feel like in a workspace, or at least my perception of a workspace back then was that, like, there's no room for feelings or needs or emotional needs especially.
Because we're not taught that either.
Right. Yeah, that was a huge part of my struggle.
And I feel like also in high school and even in college, there's almost a shame in asking questions in the classes themselves, right? And there shouldn't
Mhm.
be. But
Mm-mm.
I feel like that was just like growing up. I always was like, I feel like I need to ask a question that sounds really smart so that it
Yes.
sounds like I'm paying attention versus the question I really need the answer to.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true.
So that kind of transferred into your job in which you didn't feel comfortable enough advocating for the fact that like you don't know it all, like you can't know it
Mhm.
all.
Right,
There's no
right.
way. So that was your day in and day out, right? How long were you doing that job before you disappeared?
A year and a half. Yeah, before I disappeared.
You were very much in a routine.
Yeah. Yeah, and I kind of was in a routine, and I was like, "Is this the rest of my life? Like, is this is this it? Like,
Yeah.
maybe there's a promotion, but the girl above me is doing the same thing." Like, so, like, same routine. So I was like, "Oh, okay."
So you were already starting to think like, is this what I was sold? Like, where
Yep.
am I going with this? Did you start taking action to like find out, is this it? Or did you just kind of go with the flow?
When I was a junior going into my senior year, that summer in university, I studied abroad in Valencia, Spain, and so I fell in love with Valencia. I had never felt more alive. I mean, study abroad does that to you though, right? Like, you get to go just be like, make your life if you want. I didn't know anybody coming here, and I could be whatever I wanted when I studied abroad, and it was an amazing experience. The people I met, the lifestyle in Spain was beautiful. I always wanted to go back. I was like, you know what? Living for longer than a summer in Spain would be amazing. But I graduated college. I had to do the thing, get a job. I had no idea how to get an actual job in Spain. That's kind of impossible. So I stuck with this advertising agency job until about a year and a half later. Actually, about a year later, a year in, and I was like, I just really want to go back to Spain. Like, that part of me is still not satisfied, and I need to do this now before it's too late, before, something happens, you do get a promotion or you find like a partner and you settle down. I was like, now is the now is the time. If I want to move back to Spain, like I need to figure it out now. So I started looking into programs that allowed Americans to go and work in Spain. And there's a really common one, and you can teach English abroad in Spain. So I looked into that. I started doing my research. I started filling out all the right papers. I submitted my application for it. And then it was a waiting game. And everything in Spain, I've learned, is a waiting game. So that part has not changed. But you like submit your application in March. They tell you in like June, you have to then go through the whole visa process. And then this is kind of why I disappeared, because it happens like quickly at the end. Like it's wait, 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 go. So in September of 2019, I found out like it's a go, and I had to quit my job and move and be here on October 1st. So I moved to
Wow.
Spain in October of 2019 after this whole game.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what it was. You disappeared. I was like, where is she? And then I started seeing pictures in Spain. I was like, oh, she must be on vacation in Spain. So I reached out. I was like, where did you go?
and
You're like, oh, I
I
just
remember
moved to Spain.
I moved. Yeah, I just did it. I remember like not I remember posting like on my stories and stuff, but never making like an actual Instagram post to be like, "Hey, I moved to Spain," until like December or something. And then I was like, "By the way, sorry guys, I moved to Spain." This is a delayed update, but
So you had I mean, do you think you would have ended up there had you not done that study abroad? Like, do you feel like you would still be in the cycle of American urgency of working all the damn time?
yeah, I think that's a really great question, and I think I would, because had I not seen like that study abroad was my first taste of really what a different society might function like, which is not a common thing, I think, for a lot of Americans to like branch out and want to experience. And I think a lot who do still just end up in America. I mean, America's great, obviously, like there are so many opportunities. But for me, I like saw this society in in Spain that I was like, wait, this is really cool. Like I feel like I might actually get along better here. This is really more my vibe, my role. It's a lot slower, honestly. But for me, that was something that I always like needed almost. Like I like to be able to slow down and experience life and like stop and smell the roses.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of those flower pictures you post.
Yeah. See, you got to stop and smell the roses. And this is definitely a society that supports that to almost like an extreme that can be super frustrating because it's also almost hard to get things done here.
Right. Because they don't seem to not I don't think care is the right word, but it's not as urgent or it's not as pressing as Americans like to make every tiny thing so very important. And it seems like a
Exactly.
lot of Europe is similar to Spain in the sense that life is important just as or more important than your actual career or job or the way that you're making your money. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I can't speak for other countries. I definitely have I definitely have a German friend. I think that like Spain definitely gets the rep that they're like one of the slower countries. But I think everybody knows that you go to Spain to relax and not much more. But I do think like in general, like European societies tend to value like the human over the job. Of course, like we're all still capitalistic economies based on capitalism, but I still just think, I mean, even you see the way that societies are structured and the workplaces are structured, a lot of times, like a full time job is 35 hours a week or maternity leave and paternity leave are much longer here than in the United States, and, like, paternity leave is, like, mandatory. Like,
Right.
you have to have 6 weeks off, and then you have, like, I don't know the details, but some of these things are, like, actual priorities here, whereas in the States, especially when I graduated and I was, like, looking at people in the office who, like, had babies and literally were back a month later, and I was like, "Oh my god," like,
Yeah. What are you
it's
doing?
crazy.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think you had the benefit of that study abroad because I feel like I've vacationed somewhere for 2 weeks before, but studying abroad and like living that and having to go grocery shopping and having to figure out, just the general living and not just I'm on vacation, I'm going to do whatever I want, but like how do I function in society? You had that benefit of being there for an extended period of time, which probably was why you were called back.
Absolutely. No, that's exactly it. Really, like, the study abroad was the taste, and I was like, "Oh, I really liked that." And then when I moved here, it was kind of confirmed for
Mhm.
me. It was like, yeah,
Yeah.
this was right for me. Like, this was what I needed to be experiencing and learning from right now. And I mean, I don't know if I'll be here forever or if I'll ever go back to the States, but I mean, if I could stay here forever, I would. The visa situation is a little bit tough now because I've been here 3 years and there's like a cap on the program.
Change your name.
Yeah, right? Or just, like, find a Spanish husband.
That's right.
Like,
It's
who
just
wants
work
to
on
marry
that.
me? Yeah.
Well, you moved there, what, October 2019. So you were
Yeah.
there living the Spain life, and then March 2020 happened.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
how is, I mean, I'm sure you have family and friends here in the States. How was your experience different than what maybe your friends and family experienced through that?
Great, great question. That was also a big moment of, like, confirmation for me that it was like, there's not conspiracy theories here, and everybody can agree to wear a mask and, like, social distance, and it was a lot different. I mean,
Well, I mean, I think you just said it too. You said it a couple minutes ago is that Spain values the human over the job and over the money, right? And so
absolutely.
that makes sense that people were like, oh, I don't know if any of this is true, but I'm going to listen and I'm going to take care of my fellow man, woman, person, and socially distance and do what people are asking of me just in case.
Yeah, exactly. That was really it, and I remember, like, I mean, it was extreme here too. I mean, we like when they say lockdown, you couldn't leave your house. Like, you could leave your house to go to the grocery store, and if you were going anywhere else or you looked like you were like police would literally ask you where you're going. So it was extreme. It was uncomfortable. And I was really lucky to be surrounded by really incredible people at the time. I was roommates with two other American girls and this other American guy. So it was the ideal situation for what it was because I got really lucky and I it was very intense personal growth for me really. Probably for everyone.
Yeah. My friend that I talked to on, I believe, episode 6, she called this entire period the Great Reset, and just like where everyone kind of like the Great Awakening, like, what do I really want from myself, from the world, from the people around me? Do you
Mhm.
feel the same? I mean, you were put in a situation in which these people you didn't know very long, right? You were now
Right.
locked in an apartment with
Oh, yeah.
essentially strangers.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, like, I had known them since October, so October, like, November, December, January, March, February, March, like, 6 months
Yeah.
I had known them, and I was like, okay, like, I guess we're stuck now." And the other thing here was that would be, like, 2 weeks lockdown, and then, like, every 2 weeks, they would be like, 2 more weeks, 2 more
Hmm.
weeks." So, that created a lot of, like, uncertainty and anxiety,
Right.
but that period of time, I think it ended up being 10 weeks inside and then, like, 12 weeks of, like, restricted movement, like, they eventually gave us, like, hours that we could go outside, which was just nuts, but, um, it was what it was at the time.
Yeah. You mentioned that was a big period of personal growth for you. What do you think changed the most about you?
I think, like, because it was such an extremely, in a time there were so many unknowns and also so much like quiet time where you really had to like actually be in touch with your thoughts and feelings. I had never been that in touch with my emotions, and I was surrounded by people who were willing to listen and help. And I like I said, when I graduated university a year and a half earlier, I wasn't very good at expressing what I needed or how I was feeling. And that specific time in my life, I had to get really good at it. And I was surrounded by people who were very helpful. And that was really, I think, the majority of my personal growth was really like learning to be okay with my emotions, because I think I spent a lot of time before that being like, no, you shouldn't feel that way, or like you don't have a like feeling like I had to justify how I was feeling. And that specific time period, I remember living with people who were just like, who cares? You feel this way, you feel this way. Just let it out. We have to let it out because we're stuck inside. There's nothing else. There's so many emotions. It's a tough time for everyone. And that was huge.
And that, I mean, I love this podcast because all these conversations are so different, like the situation, but I find that we're all talking about the same things, which is really cool. My first guest on episode 1, and she'll laugh when she hears this because I keep mentioning her, but she just described what you basically said. Is she called it radical acceptance of
Mm,
wherever you are and however you're feeling, and that is empowering because you're like, I feel like crap right now. That's okay. I'm a
uh,
human. I'm allowed to feel that way, and it won't be forever,
mhm.
right?
That was another thing, like being stuck in an apartment for so long and just being like, but it won't be forever. It feels like it will, but it won't. Like it really is gonna end one day. And yeah. And just also, I don't know if this is another, like you had this sensation, but for me, it was like not, no FOMO. Like you can't have FOMO. There's no fear of missing out because what are you missing out on? Everybody's inside. No, but like I feel like I went through also this like period of time right after college, especially that I was like wanted to do everything but had these obligations and couldn't do, and you don't know where you are like friend wise, and it's just a tough period of time. And also, I mean, moving abroad, you meet a lot of people and you're like, I can't do it all. And then this happened and it was like, well, I can't do anything and nobody can either. So it's
Anything.
fine.
Were you still working at the time, like in the house?
Some things like you would I was able to like send some videos like reading books and stuff, but teaching English wise, I mean, it was new for everyone. I mean, school shut down and the teachers had to go online and nobody really knew what to do. So they would be like, hey, can you read this one thing or can you like participate in this one thing? But I didn't really have any responsibility. So that was also just this huge like gap, like this just gaping hole of like time and no space and just
Right, you're on top of each other. I'm sure the apartments are not gigantic that they've put you
oh
in.
no. Mm-mm. I had the smallest room. I had like a little closet room, and then the guy actually was sleeping on the couch because he he was like caught in between places. Like he had flown in from somewhere and couldn't get back to like his pueblo. So like, he slept on the couch for like 10 weeks. It was crazy.
Wow. Do you, this is a weird question, but are you thankful that those moments happened, even though you were locked inside?
Not a weird question. I really am. Like I I think back on those moments and it's I'm grateful for them. I'm so grateful that I had them with who I had them with. They also like they sucked. Obviously, like there were times that were just like really hard, but I am really grateful for them. That's a good way to put it actually. Because I can't say like, "Oh, I look back with fond memories," necessarily. I mean, you do. There were some fun things.
Yeah, I feel, not everyone, but I think there's a lot of people that just those moments of being forced to be still and to, if you're self aware enough to understand that this could be a moment of growth for you, looking back, I think I'm grateful for it. It just forced you to slow down. It forced you to realize, and it sucks that you just like got to a brand new place and you were hoping to do all these cool things because I love going to Europe because it's really easy to go everywhere else once you're there.
Yep. Yeah.
But just to be like here in the States, I mean, we were shut down for about 8 minutes. So it's a little different. But, like I haven't gone back to work yet, like in the office. And part of that allowed me to create a new routine. It created more productivity. I'm able to work on things that actually, bring me joy outside of work and those kind of things. So I'm grateful for the shift that happened kind of to the world at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I don't know, maybe I don't know how it is in the States actually. Maybe the shift here wasn't quite as distinct because we kind of the society was already a little bit more laid back and in tune with like if you don't feel well, don't come to work. Like and that maybe was a bigger shift in the US where it's like, oh, like let's take a step back. Let's actually do everything online from home. I don't know how much more like pronounced it was back home.
I mean, that's a whole other conversation of how I would like to say in my utopia that the general public has learned from the pandemic here in America. I don't know. I think it's created more divisiveness here. I think there's more sides in versus where maybe in Spain or other countries in which we're all one people, right? In those countries and people take care of each other and it's like, yeah, you're sick. Don't bring it to me. I don't want it, right? So,
Right?
but here in America, the focus is more like productivity, like you need to produce something.
Yeah.
So get in here. If you're just sniffling, pretend it's allergies, kind of thing. So, yeah, I'd love to say that we have that mentality and I don't
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
hope that we get out of it. So, when life started to open up again, were you able to start living some of those dreams of living in a foreign country?
It's been different. It's definitely been different. So, I mean, because in Europe, there's also been like strict travel bans too. So, like you said, like the draw to Europe, like the charm of Europe is that you can hop on a Ryanair flight for 15 euros and go anywhere you want. But I mean, Ryanair might have 15-euro flights, but then you have to buy a PCR test for like 90 euros, or you have to like, you know, there was a lot more barriers. So it's been here and there for sure. I definitely have still traveled more than I ever did in the States, but it's different. But it's different in like a way that I can definitely respect and understand. It has been a little bit difficult to like come to terms. That was all the reason. Part of the reason I don't know how true this is that I've been here 3 years is that I tell myself like, oh, I still haven't really had my like full year of normal life here. I don't know that normal life will ever actually come back because there's still, I mean, barriers and steps, but it still has been a dream. And just in general, living living abroad and seeing this society and how they overcame or got through like this pandemic has been really impressive and has really left a mark on me. So no matter where I end up after this, like that's going to be a huge.
Do you feel like you're home?
Yeah.
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 You
Definitely.
seem very like centered and kind of peaceful. Not that you ever, I mean, in the 8 minutes that I knew you before, you didn't seem like erratic, but the way you described your life before, do you feel like you're a totally different presence now too?
Definitely. I do. And I think it's because like you mentioned productivity earlier, and in the US, productivity is like number one, right? And in Spain, not so much. Very almost
You've
unproductive
mentioned
country.
that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I cannot emphasize enough. Like the banks close at 2 every day and they don't open on the weekends. Like, and that's those are the people who like take your money. So, like, how does the economy work? I don't know. Everybody still takes a nap in the middle of the day. Yeah, I don't know how it works. Anyway, you mentioned productivity. One of the biggest things coming here because I was so like trained to put productivity first was like you can't be 110% productive every day. Like you just cannot live that way. And moving to Spain helps me realize that. And then this whole down period during COVID where you literally couldn't leave your house, like that hurt me inside, you know? Like I was like, what can I get done? Like what can I do? There has to be something. And just learning that productivity is really not it's not your life goal. It shouldn't be your life. It shouldn't be your life.
But you seem to be functioning just fine without having to do 100% deadlines every day.
Right. And I think that that has opened up so much more space for me to like look inward and really understand who I am and what it is I want and get in touch with me. And I'm not saying that I'm there yet because I still don't even know, you know, I don't have a 5-year plan. I don't have a 10-year plan. I barely have a 1-year plan. So, but it really has just opened up this space for me to like be myself and explore. And I think that is really important for me right now.
Do you think people in Spain have 1, 3, 5-year plans, or is that more of an American thing?
I I think that's an American thing. I have not heard anyone ask me that since I got here.
And maybe this is your lesson, is to just like go with where your heart and where life is taking you. And you mentioned earlier, I don't know if we were recording yet, but you mentioned that you were struggling with kind of the visa process now because you've been there 3 years. What's that looking like? What's happening?
Yeah, so there's this very weird like there's a lot of rules as I'm sure there are in America too with getting a visa, honestly. But basically like my program won't allow me to renew for a 4th year in this city. And I don't want to leave the city because I love it here. This is home now. But I'm not eligible to like get a work visa, like a different job until October because that will be my like official 3rd year mark. It's complicated. That has that's been one aspect of like living abroad that for the last 3 years hasn't been that unmanageable. Like, hasn't been that unmanageable. It's been okay
Right.
because each year I renew and I'm like, well, this is situation. But getting to this point, now it's a little bit rocky and I feel a little bit more unstable. And that's definitely not comfortable. But I'm still loving it here. So it's kind of hard, like,
Torn almost.
right. It's a lot of things. It's frustrating, but it's also like beautiful that I like love it so much here and I really want to stay. I think that there's a way. I just have to keep trying and it's really frustrating.
Well, I mean, just like your journey there, it was, I mean, it was wait, 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 hurry up. So maybe that's your situation. Maybe you're able to find another company that's willing to wait till October to swap your work visa or keep you there. Who knows what life. I mean, I think that's nice about what I'm seeing in you is that the American like need to have everything like a checklist is kind of maybe a little bit less, and that you're trying to enjoy life instead of like, what's my next thing I have to do? What's the next thing I have to do?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think what it really comes down to for me is like checklists are nice, like, and sometimes necessary, especially if,
Especially in the visa process.
yeah, there's like a lot on my mind. There's a lot going on up here and I can't keep it straight. So checklists are nice, but you can't live by a checklist. And that's one thing that I think I'm learning here is like, I really do want this one thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it's out of my hands. Uh, And in the meantime, I just have to try and enjoy and see what else is out there. So like I have other I don't necessarily have a backup plan. I have backup ideas. And in that sense you kind of have to go with the flow, which it can be exhausting, honestly, but is also so beautiful and can also be really rewarding. Like this entire trip has been for me, like this entire experience has been. So you never know like what opportunities will come up.
No, certainly not. Do you think that the younger version of you could imagine this current version of you?
Oh my gosh, that's really funny. No, not at all. It's funny because My family does a Zoom call like once a month now. Ever since the pandemic, that's been one beautiful thing that came out of it. We still keep our monthly Zoom call. And my aunt the other day literally was like, "You as a little girl, I could never imagine you living so far away and traveling all around the world." Like, I was quite a shy, reserved, like, we took a family trip to Yellowstone National Park without my mom, and I just cried the whole time. Like, she was like, "That little girl who's crying in the log cabin, I can't imagine her ever living abroad." And, like, that's so true, honestly. If I was a little girl looking at my current life, I don't know. I don't know what I would think.
When you started looking for, the opportunity to go back to Spain, do you think there was one thing that was like, I'm doing this? Like, was there like a moment, something happened at work or something happened in your life? Do you think there was a trigger, or was it just kind of always percolating there?
I think it percolated for a while, definitely. Like I said, I was going through it after college, and I would go to my friend's house and her apartment in downtown Orlando, and I would, at the end of the night, just go to her house and cry. And she'd be like, "Noelle, like, what is going on?" And I'd be like, "I don't know. Like, I don't know. I just don't feel satisfied. I don't feel fulfilled." And she told me, she said, "I think you're depressed." And I was like, I would never have thought to put those words to my situation, but I was. I mean, I was depressed. I didn't know how to cope with the emotions that I had. I didn't know what the solution was, but I knew that there was one thing that I really wanted, and it was to move to Spain. And like, I saw that as a fresh start. As soon as she said that, I was like, I think I like that's the solution. I need a fresh start. And she helped me through the process a lot. I mean, she she like was so supportive of it, and that helped a lot. So like each step of the way, I'd be like, I submitted this today, because it was also like this process that looked so daunting. And I was like, I want to move abroad, but I don't know. Like, that was another part, was like, I want to go back to Spain, but I don't know how. And so like each step of the way, I was like, I researched this today, and she'd be like, "That's great." And I was like, I submitted this today, and she's like, "Yay." And then I was like, I got accepted. And she was like, "That's amazing." And then I had to actually be like, okay, I'm moving.
Yeah. And then she was like, don't go. Why are you
Yeah.
going? No, I mean, but your goal was to get back to Spain and you did it. I mean, how many people do you know that have this seemingly, I mean, it's a lofty goal to say, I want to go live in another country. Like, it's one thing, I'm going to go live in Colorado, which I did. Like, that's easy. I can do that, right? It's easier,
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's
right?
okay. It's not easy. You don't have to do a visa process, but it's still
Right.
quite
Yeah.
quite difficult.
But I mean, it just seems like for someone like me, I mean, do you speak Spanish?
So it was my minor in college, and I really loved it in high school.
Some familiarity with the language when you got there.
That was a big part of why I wanted to come, because I was like,
Yeah.
I'm like so close, but I don't really have it yet. I need to
Yeah.
practice.
I was going to say, yeah, I have a friend who I don't think it was quite as whim related. It was job related, but moved to Paris and didn't speak any French and speaks, she can have a conversation. It's maybe not fluent, but yeah, I feel like that as Americans, we take like a language, two classes in seventh grade and 11th grade, and then that's it.
Mhm.
So I feel like for me, someone like me, it would be really challenging to, yeah, if I loved that space, but that's an extra piece. So was that any ever in your mind that like, oh no, how do I function there? Or because you were studying abroad, you were kind of familiar?
I think I was familiar enough to understand that, like, I had already gotten through the culture shock, maybe, and it wasn't too bad for me. Um, that's not, I mean, some people it could be worse, some people it could be easier, but for me, I was like, "Ooh, I like it." And I was a little bit accustomed to it when I came. My biggest fear, I guess, when I came was not knowing anyone, and just getting through, like, actually, like, technical processes in Spanish, because you have to open a bank account, you have to go to the foreigner's office and, like, get your ID there, and, like, that part was very intimidating, but I was part of, like, the incredible part of this program that I didn't expect was that you literally meet Americans abroad who are in the same situation as you, which seems obvious, but, like, I didn't realize, like, how it would work. And, like, meeting the people that I met here was also just so validating and inspiring because the girls that I moved in with my first year had been here they were each on their 3rd year as well, and they fell in love with it, and they had a lot of the same reasons for coming as I did, and it was just I was like, "Oh my god," like,
Now I can ask you all the questions.
yes, and I found people that was I found people that I found friends, I found people that I had so much in common with, which I was
Your
struggling with
tribe.
back in Italy. Mhm.
You found a tribe of people with similar goals, and that's amazing.
I think everyone in America, when you graduate university, like, you're meant to have, like, the goal of getting a job like we talked about, but that's not
Yeah.
really that didn't bond me to anyone, like, but moving abroad and being like, "Oh my god, like, you wanted to come to study Spanish and, like, do this whole other cultural thing too." That was huge for me.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, honestly, I think we create these communities in times of deep challenge, right? And like things that we're facing. And that's why I think for some people, the pandemic has been kind of helpful in creating like what really matters in the group of people you want to be around, because like you're facing something heavy. And if people are having like reactions to you, you're like, oh, we
Yeah,
bond. This is
yes.
good.
It's so true. It's
Yeah.
very true.
Well, I like to wrap up these conversations with a question that is probably like not really easy to answer. So get ready. No. So current version you, what could you say to the Noelle that graduated yesterday from university?
Oh god. Wow, that is a hard one. Current version of me, what would I say?
Any advice you could give her to that? Like, look where I am.
Yeah, I think just that it's oh, man, the adventures that that await you are, like, so incredible, and, like, the struggle that is today is not worth crying over, not worth, throwing the talent over, you know?
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of days where I was like, "Oh my god, this is, like, not worth it. I don't wanna do this anymore."
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I would have known then, like, all of these beautiful things that I would find here. I don't wanna say that I would have done it sooner because I think I needed that time also, but I think maybe I guess just take life a day at a time, and it's you're gonna get where you need to be, and where you are right now is where you need to be.
Yeah, and I think that, it's true. All these little things that we've done through our lives get us to where we are. Because maybe you wouldn't be, like, maybe you would be in Spain, but maybe you wouldn't be loving it as much as you are and the life that you're living had you not experienced what you
Yeah.
experienced when you graduated and got the full-time job and was just like gym, work, cry, sleep,
Yeah.
gym, work, cry, sleep.
Exactly.
Like
That's so
you
true.
needed that.
Mhm. I have definitely an even bigger appreciation for where I'm at now because of that period of time, and even though it felt like so long at the time, I mean, it was a year and a half, it was, in the grand scheme of things, quite a short period of time in my life, but it really did, like, impact my perception and appreciation of where I'm at now. That's so true.
Yeah. What's one thing if someone was like, I want to move to a foreign country, like what's one thing you would tell them to make sure that they do up front?
Hmm.
Like what was the biggest hurdle for you getting there?
Starting the process. Just
So just start.
starting. Yeah, just start. Just do it. I mean, whatever it takes.
Isn't that the hardest thing of any project? Really? Is just
It
like
really is.
just start.
Mhm, and do, like, one piece of paperwork at a time because I know if you get to the point where you're looking at the visa situation and you're like, "I have to do what? Like, what even are these words? I don't even know this ex I have to get something apostilled? What is that?" Like,
Right.
What does that mean? I have to order this thing and then mail it to someone else. Just do one day at a time, and it's okay.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know all your story. I just knew that one day you were there and the next day you were not.
Mystery solved.
I just think you're super inspiring that you had this goal and you made it happen, and who knows what's next. But I love this journey for you because I feel like you're more of the human that you've always wanted to be and just needed to go through these experiences to kind of create. So I hope you're feeling that way, and I really appreciate you sharing your story here.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And I was talking with someone today and I was like, if this interview would have happened a year ago or 6 months ago, like I would have just been so gung ho and excited. But like recently with the visa situation, I was afraid that I was gonna be a little bit Debbie Downer. But isn't you just talking about this honestly has really helped me appreciate again like where I'm at.
Yeah. You've done so much, and I think you've done it through a worldwide pandemic, which is a whole other beast in itself, right? Like, I mean, had this not happened, you'd be living a different life in Spain, right? But
Hmm.
maybe this is all, I mean, it is all part of the journey, and who knows and what the cool things will come next.
Hmm. Isn't that beautiful? It is.
I love it. I love it, and I think it's important for people to just be aware that like their life is taking them in the direction that it's supposed to be, and we're supposed to hit these bumps, and we're supposed to respect the bumps, and and just keep
Mhm.
going. Just like you said when you were talking about like learning about yourself during that period of time and just accepting like wherever you are, and that's okay. Like
Yeah.
that in itself, you win, right? You
Yeah.
win life by doing that.
It's so true. It's so true. Honestly, I think that like I need to take times like like quarantine times for myself and just be
Hmm.
like,
Yeah.
okay, sit, do nothing, just get in touch. And I mean, it's so important. It was crazy that that like forced everyone to like go through that, and it's been
Together,
beautiful. Yeah,
but
together,
separate.
we just yeah, it's beautiful.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time with me. I know it's getting late there. So thanks for being a part of the Life Shift podcast. I
Yeah,
appreciate
thank
you.
you so much. Yeah, I appreciate you.
Maybe we'll see you when you're in the States at some point.
Maybe, or maybe you just come to Spain. You can
Okay.
podcast
Well,
from
I like
Spain,
that.
right?
Totally. Totally. We're good.
Yeah.
All right. I will say goodbye for now, but I
All
appreciate
right.
you. I'm Matt Gilhooly, and this is The Life Shift, candid conversations about the pivotal moments that change lives forever. Please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. For more information about how you can support the Life Shift podcast, please visit www.thelifeshiftpodcast.com. See you next time.